So welcome to ProfileTree TV, and today we're going to talk about startups and online selling. So welcome, you're our new guest today, so I'm going to hand the stage over and let you talk and tell us all about yourself and your business.
So my name is Gareth and I'm the serial startupper. I guess like my background is fairly diverse. So I started off in television presenting. I then moved from the television into faith-based ministry, which opened up doors in youth and community work. And we work particularly with marginalised young people and people who were thinking of self-harm and suicide. And we started up a social business. So I went into training in University of Ulster for social entrepreneurship. We started really a very successful business called Morph down in Dungannon, and the global crisis hit. So we got floored, and we ended over in Brazil, and we saw that people were really able to make things and sell things in the street corner. We relied really on statutory aid and job seekers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just seeing the entrepreneurial spirit in Brazil, with people selling candles and oils and sweets through the car windows. And my wife's Brazilian, so we got quite inspired. We wanted to learn how to make soap when we were over there. And we came home, and still with the whole idea of kind of social enterprise, wanted to set up a social business here. So we set up a soap company called Scent, and we've been running it for about 10 years. And very much Carla was going to be the face of that, and I was taking the back seat, just making sure the social enterprise part was there, and was staying at home with the kids. And really, in the last 3 years, we started to look at how is I going to step forward. And so we were looking at how do you do kind of eldership and community, how do you do social business? And I stumbled upon either it was going to be politics or it was going to be medicine. And I was quite interested in the herbs and essential oils and what wisdom we have lost of old. And we started to apply a lot of those herbs into herbal medicine. So I'm currently studying to do medical herbalism. I qualify next year, and in the process then we rebranded really Scent to set up a business called The Wild Sage. So it's going strong. It's been just about a year now.
Incredible, amazing. What a story. So it's brilliant. And in fairness, the startup is, I guess, our journey through life is an evolution. We learn and we experience, and each road we take us down, there's more roads that we can turn, and everywhere is a step. So definitely, and I've been in a few startups myself, so I can chalk that up. So it's interesting. Yeah, we've got a lot of things in common there, but I guess it's a journey, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And it does feel as though I'm coming full circle. You know, I set up. It was one of those things. I did A levels, and I did biology, geography, and RE, and they all looked at me and went, "What the heck are you going to do with those?" Because it does not make any sense. And, you know, I kind of did the theology degree. I've gone and done the social business, which is probably the geography part of it. And it's now feeling as though the biology is coming full circle. You know, if only the careers advisor had told me that there was a career called a medical herbalist that could be involved in social enterprise, I mean, I'd have been landed.
That's the thing. I look back at the careers advice I got, and everyone was funneled down about three lines, and that was it. There was no real exploration of what options were out there, but new jobs all the time, so it's incredible. So tell us exactly what the Wild Sage is and what's available.
Yeah, so the Wild Sage, it is a continuation of soaps and cosmetics that we were doing previously, and part of that was educational, and it was very much a social enterprise slant. The Wild Sage is really taken more of a persona relating to the sage part. It's obviously a herb, it's medicine. Sage was called the All Save, hence its name, Salvus. But it also relates to that whole idea of the elder of the community and that advisor that you would get with medicine, but also that spiritual dynamic for theology for me. And the Wild Sage is uncultivated. You know, it's hard to box in, and probably has been a bit like me. You know, I don't really fit the institutional mold quite often. I can do the board of directors and the executives and the following the rules, but I kind of do like to bend them. You know, I like to think that there is no box. And so just the Wild Sage was allowing for that wildness, but really it is selling herbal teas and tinctures and remedies. Towards the next year, whenever I qualify, then that will be to set up a clinic where I can do consultations and prescribe medicines that would be much more personal than what you can sell over the counter, where my license has changed. So rather than going to the GP, they will come to me as the GP and still do a diagnostic examination, but get a prescription that's tailored for them.
Incredible. And going off track now, you're opening up loads of doors for me, and I have about a 500 quite. No, but it's really interesting again, because when you think about it and we think of traditional medicine, we all go and maybe get our tablets, but for sure it's not one size, as you say rightly, it's not one size fits all. We're all unique, and people need different help with different problems. So it's really interesting. So, and that's really what you're studying then.
Yeah, so I've got one more year to go for that, and it will get me to the stage where really a first-year medical student would be doing the physical examinations that you'd be used to in A&E. But the only difference really is that I will come at it therapeutically, and I will be interested. I have a lot more time to give to somebody, so I will have maybe an hour to 90 minutes with a consultation instead of 10. And it will involve the whole person, not just your symptoms. I'll be trying to look at what the core root is. So it's a slightly different tack, but similar kind of diagnostic tools would be used just in examinations and stuff.
So obviously we're going through a little bit of a crisis around us at the moment, and health now is very important. Do you think health is important to people?
Yeah, do you know, it's one of those, I think it is important to people, but there is a sense, and it comes back down to really what I said earlier. You know, we went to Brazil and we realized people had to make their ends meet because there was no fallback, there was no security. And we do live in a country where we have a wonderful NHS, but it has lulled us into the sense of we can actually put responsibility and the blame for our own health onto professionals. So whenever we're not feeling well, we go to the GP and we get our medicine. And I think we do need to change that ethos and actually put the responsibility back on us. And it's been interesting just even recently listening to the news that people are not going to A&E the same. There's a 50% drop. Part of that might be there's less accidents, but actually people don't want to go to A&E because they're afraid of getting infected by something. And so they are beginning to look at kind of at home, what can they do themselves? You know, people are looking at how can they increase their immune systems and make sure that they're fighting fit so that whenever they do get something that they're much more resilient and more likely to recover. So I do think it's certainly topical at the minute. Fear is playing a part of that, but I'm hopeful that actually maybe we're beginning to be a bit more resourceful in ourselves and actually trying to address those things ourselves.
Incredible. And have you seen benefits for using natural or traditional remedies?
Yeah, I have. And funny, there's interesting research. I mean, allopathic care looks at gold standard as double-blind trials. And ultimately that's because there's constituents that they can test to see whether or not they're good at remedying an ailment or a disease or an illness. And they do work, but we are blinded a little bit by that. So you have, and without getting into conspiracy theories, but money speaks and talks. In fact, very loudly, money shouts. But the tests for constituents can be patented, and you can't do that with a herb. So there's no real financial interest to do a scientific study on the properties of a herb. They're much more likely to go and get a constituent from a herb to get a drug or a pharmaceutical thing. So we're not really researching adequately really what herbs can do. And I think that's missing qualitative research. So qualitative research is looking at how we've been using herbs for maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And the evidence is astoundingly good because, people will not continue to give a herb if it's killing people. So, we have proven that they are successful. We look at, diseases and medicines that are killing people, and it's in the tens of thousands every year. And we might get 2 deaths according to herbs, and they can be self-administered. So, on the grand scheme of things, they're so much safer. And to give you an idea, just 2 examples of herbs where they work so incredibly well. St. John's wort would be one of them, and willow or meadowsweet would be the other one. St. John's wort would be a mild antidepressant. So they have tried to do many studies on that, and there's a particular constituent called hypericin. And the hypericin is the oil and the constituent that's really used mostly as an antidepressant. But the problem with the trials are that whenever they test St. John's wort as the herb, and whenever they test hypericin as the constituent, the herb always works better than even a stronger amount of hypericin. And it's to do with the synergy of the plant and how the plant actually works with your system, because it doesn't just work at solving the mental health, but it also works at the liver for the detox. It also works at the digestive tract to be able to, and the digestive tract's really intrinsically connected to the brain. So understanding that the plant actually has many more constituents and properties to it that can be effective is really important from a herbalist's take. The other one was aspirin. Aspirin's a great pain reliever. We use it regularly. It's bought over the counter, but it's notorious for being really bad on your stomach and causing intestinal bleeding and ulcers. But the funny thing is, if you take meadowsweet or willow tree, which is where we get the salicylates from aspirin, you take that as a herb as opposed to a drug. It's actually an antacid, and it will be soothing to your stomach. It's actually perfectly suitable for anybody with digestive issues, and it's also an anodyne and pain reliever. So it won't work just as fast, but it does work effectively, and very, very well researched. But the research behind traditional herbs, really you're looking to China and Asia for a lot of the research coming, because there's not the money to do the backing behind it. But that which is coming is beginning to confirm our suspicions that herbs can actually work as well, if not better, than some of the allopathic treatments.
It's incredible and so interesting now, like in general, especially as I'm getting older. I'm starting to realize that I need to be a wee bit more careful, but it's so interesting to see. So would you have in your daily life some herbs that you would normally take? Is that something that you do, or you take different things if you've got different ailments?
Yeah, I do. Well, I play a lot as well with them, because I'm a great believer in I don't prescribe anything that I'm not going to try myself. So I do actually have a condition. I have an essential tremor. So I would have this shake, not quite as bad as what you would see in Parkinson's. And it definitely got me interested into trying to find an alternative than beta blockers or whatever else might be available. So there's a tailor-made prescription that I write for myself, and I'll play with some of those herbs that I might be able to use. So at the minute I'm using cowslip as one of the ones, and it's to do with an ancient recipe to do with a tremor, and I just was curious to see how I could test it. A lot of it's to do with diet and gut. And then coronavirus has raised a whole pile of herbs. The Japanese knotweed, which people hate because it's an invasive species and a weed, but it's full of resveratrol, which is fabulous as an anti-aging and antioxidant, and actually is proven now in China. It's been used for coronaviruses, now not COVID-19, but for an awful lot of coronaviruses in the past, and for SARS. And so along with a number of Japanese and Chinese herbs, we're beginning to look at what opportunities there might be from herbal medicine to even support your immune system in this epidemic.
It's incredible. Myself personally, now I've started taking chia seeds in my mix in the morning. So starting to get my head around all of these herbs, or trying to, pretending anyway. So to kind of balance the takeaway on the Friday night, but what to do? That's my step so far. But no, it's really, really interesting. And then through your own site. So at the moment you're selling some products at the moment, and you're going to evolve that over the next year.
Yeah. So we still do the soaps and the cosmetics. Carla has the aromatherapy, my wife. And then I've really been bringing in herbal teas that are specific for conditions, whether it's insomnia, sleep, digestive issues. They will get more and more specific as I really am beginning to treat people. But there are some that are over the counter and suitable for everybody. And then really we're doing like tinctures and oils and supplements, herbs and capsules. So different types of herbal remedies that would have been offered. This year we'll be launching some more tinctures that can be sold over the counter. So it's a single extract, and thankfully they can all go under food additions. So it comes under food legislation as opposed to medicine legislation. So it's just really working with the legislation that's out there to create a means for us to really publicize ourselves and promote the brand really of the Wild Sage.
No, it's totally incredible. And the thing is, as we both know, there's so much research and so many herbs and plants out there. It's hard to take time out and to study them all the time. So it's great that we found an expert that's actually doing that. So that's good to know. And obviously we mentioned coronavirus, and we have this current situation, I guess, around us at the moment. Has that impacted your business much?
I mean, we've been fortunate because obviously it's a fledgling business. We weren't expecting this to create a whole lot of profit in our first year, and I was still studying at the time. So it has moved our route to market. We would have been at St. George's Market, and different artisans would have been really the best locations for us to retail. That's obviously gone. we did have an online setup, so we were at least fortunate in that. So we were quite easily able to move business across. And I think people have been quite loyal to us, which has been fabulous. I mean, I couldn't ask for better from our customers. And I think they can see that from me as well, that I'm dedicated to them. I want them to be well. So they really are returning that to us. So it's been, and I guess, you know, I'm one of those people that difficulty breeds opportunity. And we stumbled into homeschool, which we've wanted to do for a long time. So I took the kids out and was taking photographs and videos of different herbs. And we put a few of the videos up, and it really went well. You know, people started to get interested in the herbs and plants, and they're saying that they're liking the videos. So it has moved us prematurely, I guess, into that educational aspect of how can we teach people that there is enough on their doorstep to be able to sustain themselves, even through the dry patches that life may bring. So, you know, even just things like the dandelion and the nettle and how they can make nettle soup, and just introduce those herbs again to people, things that we've forgotten over time. So I think it's breeding an opportunity for us to create an awareness for the brand. And I'm not an expert in the video, you know, or media. Despite the TV background, I was never the one with the camera. I was always the one in front. And I think, you know, once we get the kids into holding the camera at the right angle and not decapitate my head when I'm trying to talk about a herb, it definitely is proving one way for us to increase awareness of the wild sage, and that's been great.
No, incredible. It's the way forward, isn't it? For sure. And I think of, you know, all the conversations with my grandparents over the years, and talking about these old herbs and remedies that, as you say, well forgotten. So it's great to see them coming back and being talked about. You're bringing back all these memories now of good old days, as I say, when I was younger. And your businesses, you're looking at the social enterprise aspect of businesses and connecting with communities as well. That's important for you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, ultimately, my goal and my drive has always been faith-based. It's that vocational aspect. And from that, so it's always been about people. And social business was a way for me to not ever need to be in a place where I'm dependent on people putting in their tithe or into a plate, you know, every week. That you can actually still do ministry, but create an income legitimately. Not saying that ministers are not legitimate by any stretch, but just that there's alternative models out there. And so social business, we have done 2 businesses now. Morph was a social business, and it was really with marginalized young people. Scent was also, but much more along the lines of equality, looking after the rainforest, carbon emissions, as well as kind of an educational slant. The wild sage is very much at a stage where, you know, I'm at the midlife crisis. We have got to be able to look after ourselves as a family, and we've got to look at our retirement plan, and it can't always be charitable, it can't always be me giving. So there is a long-term goal towards how we would build up to a social enterprise, which would involve both the education and like community gardens, where people who can't afford to pay for their medicine can maybe volunteer for a few hours and actually therapeutically get involved in the land to grow their own medicine, and also to be able to bring in that therapeutic approach of like forest bathing and learning foraging. They're the social enterprise aspects, but ultimately, me as a clinician and as a diagnostician, that is the bit where I will have to generate an income for the family. So it's on hold at the moment as a social enterprise, but it's certainly part of the long-term goal.
Incredible. And again, I'm thinking just the coronavirus, and I think that might actually give businesses like yourself some opportunities, as opposed to maybe be a negative, making us all. So I'm thinking myself, I'm watching this, we're all thinking of our health now and how we can improve. And I'm thinking I definitely need to spend more time on your website and get to understand more about the healthy living. We eat too much processed food, and there's so many things we can go down a path on. But maybe this time to sit back and will make us think more about our health. Do you think that might be a slight upside?
I think it's been really interesting to see. Do you know what I'm hoping for is that people have got to a stage where they have realized that there's this gaping hole that has just arrived in their lives, and that they have maybe forgotten aspects of what they had been taught or maybe missed out on. So I think that whole of they're beginning to look to bread. I mean, you can't buy flour anywhere at the minute in time because everybody's off learning how to make breads and baking again. And I think that must evoke something warm and fuzzy there with childhood memories. That being able to, whether it's bake bread or make soap, or we've lost that wisdom. So I'm really hoping that people are beginning to look around to find out how can they make their own washing up powders and their own dishwashing powders, because we've lost that knowledge. And globalization has been wonderful in many ways, but it has robbed us of those kind of wisdoms of being able to do things ourselves. We farm that out to people because it earns less money, but yet it can be richly satisfying. And there's a lot of research about being involved and connected with the land is actually good. And it gets a little bit bizarre medically, but it is to do with the redox reaction and the chemistry that's going on in your body. But whenever you're actually in contact with the soil, it does transfer a lot of electricity and allows the inflammation to actually dissipate right into the soil, and it's good for us. So, I mean, just looking at what those opportunities are, if people are beginning to get interested, it certainly puts me in a good place because I can educate on those things. And we've been doing it from 2010 at the last global crisis. But I think more than that, it's about showing that there is an alternative, that maybe we don't need that second income coming into the house. Maybe actually having one car would have been enough if there's one of us that's home or we're both job sharing. And it might alter our perspectives a little bit and put a value on family and health and well-being, and really remove ourselves from that stressful, oh gosh, what's the word? You know, that rat cage and the wheel. That's the word I'm looking for. But just get out of that kind of rat race.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think so many people now are taking time out and asking those types of questions and wondering what we did before. It's a good time to reflect and appreciate everything we have. But very, very interesting times. What to do. So what's the future goals then for the wild sage? We dipped in it slightly, but it sounds very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the future, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I mean, I would love, we're watching the NHS under immense pressure and stress at the minute. And I would love for particularly Northern Ireland, for Stormont to really come out of that and begin to look at, well, what could they do as an alternative approach? And I think there's a lot to be said for holistic and preventative medicine. So looking at the osteopaths, the kinesiologists, the herbalists, and sorry, not just herbalists, but a medical herbalist, you know, within the NHS, where they can do the diagnostics, they can take the time to really prevent the need for surgery or for more serious treatment and expensive treatment. There's no model like that in Northern Ireland. I would love to see that come out of Corona more than anything else. For a business take, my plan really for this next year would be both products and branding and market awareness. Really, once I qualify and start the clinic up, I'll be looking for some kind of clinical practice to work alongside other professionals. And you're talking about your osteopath, your chiropractor, the kinesiologist, the aromatherapist, the acupuncturist, to really do a one-stop shop that can facilitate holistic health, and probably bring in a little bit of the spiritual direction stuff that would have been my theology past and my faith-based past. And with a long-term view, really, the 5 to 10 year view is I would love a piece of land, and it's capital really that I would need for that, but about 6 to 10 acres, and it would be for our own forest and orchard, but where we can do the community gardens and the educational outreach. But it's based, have you, sorry if I lose my voice, have you ever been to Nendrum down in near Cumber?
No, I haven't, no. That's somewhere I need to go see then.
So Nendrum is, it's an old Celtic monastery. It's not one from a British past, it's a real Irish, Celtic, Messianic, Jewish, Christian tradition. But it was a business hub right on Strangford Lough. It had the spiritual element to it. It was very holistic in its approach, but it had the orchard, had the land, had the chickens, and it had its own water mill. I think it was the first water mill in Europe, certainly, that they had been able to create to grind their own flour. And it was very much a place that offered pilgrimage and creativity and learning and education, but it was also a business hub that people came and went from, and that they were able to send forward more monks and more monasteries and really plant from there. And I guess ultimately it's about trying to put something of that model in place, but for us as a clinical practice. So very much looking at the whole person, but also being connected with the land and with business. You know, very much I'm not coming at it as a herbalist that's going to be just about the people. I'm not coming at it just being the forager and having my own agricultural practice. It is business for me ultimately, where I want the awareness to be increased. So it is the brand. I do want the teas and the tinctures to become known so that they're getting out there and they can be sold over the counter because they have me backing it. But if I can pull that together in some way, then that would be really the full goal of what I'm trying to achieve within the Wild Sage, you know, in the next 10 to 15 years.
Incredible. Well, yeah, what a vision. So it sounds just fantastic. And I'm thinking of the one building where you can go and see multiple consultants who are based and focused on health. I think that's a brilliant idea. I think it'd be really appealing to a lot of people. So no, we're wishing you the best of luck for that. And anyone watching this, if they want to check out some of the products, to get in touch and maybe ask some questions, find out what's happening and what you're doing in your business, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, through the website is thewildsage.co.uk. You can get me on Instagram and Facebook as The Wild Irish Sage, and by Gmail, it's thewildirishsage@gmail.com.
Brilliant. No, again, thank you very much. What we do, we'll put all those links underneath this video, so anyone that's watching this video can click straight through and connect and start a conversation. So again, thank you for your time today.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this video interesting. I know I did. Definitely making me think more about my health, and I'm going to have to check out the website and keep informed of what's happening. If you enjoy this video, or you know anyone that may enjoy it, then please do share it on social media, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.